Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hospital, joined as always by my co-hosts Jason and DJ, and this is the podcast that brings to you the latest and greatest of Magic financial news, or in the case of the pandemic, the lack thereof. So welcome into the episode, everybody. We do have plenty to talk about. We've got some return of some popular segments tonight. We're going to talk about the latest update as the economy and the Magic economy kind of try to rebuild and find their place in this post-pandemic world. So welcome.
We're not post-pandemic. We're not post-pandemic. What are you talking about?
I said as we try to figure out where they will fit in the post-pandemic world.
There is no post-pandemic world. This is our life now.
I'm going to get a vaccine. I'm going to let Bill Gates stick the needle in my butt, put the microchip in there, and I'm going to get the vaccine.
I don't think that they do vaccine injections intramuscular, so that probably won't be in your butt unless you specially request that.
Well, okay, Dr. Mann.
Doctor, just call me Doctor.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason to you.
Please, Dr. Mann was my father. Just call me Man.
What kind of shots do you get in your butt?
Intramuscular injections.
Well,
I don't know the dose route for every drug, man. I'm not a
apparently,
doctor,
you know, I mean, you know that they don't give you vaccines in your butt. I didn't.
Do you get acupuncture?
Yeah, because you've been getting a vaccine in your butt every 6 months since you were 14, right?
I don't even know how to take that.
In the butt.
And welcome to Brainstorm Brewery, everybody. Look, we got a lot to get to tonight. We're going
Get
to
in the van, kid. I'm a doctor, man.
We're gonna
Dr. Man.
We're gonna jump into our new segment.
Dr. Man does whatever a doctor can.
All right, I give up.
From the back of his van.
I give up. I tried.
He gives you vaccines. He's Dr. Man. Hey, man. Don't get in his van.
You guys are making up a theme song like you need that to make Dr. Man heroic. Doctors are already heroes. Come on. And Dr. Man would be a kick name for a hero.
What?
Okay, maybe not.
Wow, I'm a man. Nobody calls me Dr. Man, but I
okay,
got
man.
Tentacles, so
We've
I'm
got
Dr. Octopus. This is bull.
We've got a Spider-Man. We got a Batman.
I have 4 PhDs. Call me Dr. Man. I'm more man than Octopus.
All I'm
These
saying,
arms are metal. I can take them off.
all I'm saying is Dr. Man would not seem out of place. We have Doctor Strange. Like, come on.
His last name is actually Strange.
But what if his last name was Man?
Then his name would be Dr. Man.
Exactly. Also, some people have like Man, like 2 N's as a last name.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's how it would be spelled.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would be Dr. Man.
that's
Hatton.
what all I was
Dr.
saying.
Manhattan's Dr. Man. And then some. He's got some extra letters and a blue penis.
All I know about Dr. Manhattan is the blue penis. The rest of it, take it or leave it. But I saw that blue penis movie. I learned
the blue penis movie.
I learned a whole new side of superhero movies.
That blue penis was far from the worst thing about that movie.
What was the worst thing about that movie? I like that movie.
The sex scene to the worst cover of Jeff Buckley.
Oh, that's the best cover, man.
What's his name's Hallelujah?
That's the best cover.
Jeff Buckley did the best cover. That was the worst cover.
No, they have the
It was
Rufus
a bad sex
Wainwright
scene.
version, right?
It might have been. It was bad.
I don't know, man. Anyways, Watchmen was a cool movie. All right,
I mean,
let's move on.
It was his last good movie, so then he made Sucker Punch.
Who, Dr. Man?
Yes, Dr. Man.
Oh.
Dr. Director Man.
Director
Jack
Man.
of all trades.
I completely ruined the DC universe. Do they call me Zack Snyder Man? No. They don't call me at all because I ruined too many movies.
Did Zack Snyder do anything good?
Yeah, 300 and Watchmen.
Oh, well, there you go. Those were good movies. I agree.
Just 300 Part 1.
Okay.
There were 300 Watchmen movies? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm behind.
Yeah,
Catch
you
up.
missed them.
I
Well,
didn't
there were probably 300 segments to that Curse of the Black Sail or whatever. That's what it felt like. That was
What?
interminable.
Do you mean Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
No, Curse of the Black Sail was the thing, the interstitial thing with the kid reading the comic book in Watchmen.
What?
I really thought you were being a boomer trying to reference Curse of the Black Pearl, which is the name of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
You know, I'm a boomer, so I'm old enough to remember that was just a shitty ride. at Disney.
Yep.
But then they're like, every Disney ride needs a... Before they got Marvel stuff, everyone's like, Disney's going to ruin movies having Marvel stuff. But Disney was already going to ruin movies because they thought every one of their rides needed a movie. They're like, Haunted Mansion. What? That should be a movie.
I like that movie.
But it's an elevator that goes up and, it's a movie. Get Eddie Murphy. And they're like, all right.
The movie was great.
And then, yeah.
Oh, I remember that movie. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And then you guys think that was a great movie. And they're like, who's next?
I'm not saying it's a great movie. I'm saying I remember that it
I
exists,
barely
which is
remember
surprisingly, like, that's a high bar for me to clear, to remember a movie exists.
There was some
Did
kind
you
of...
guys know Ocean's 11 was their attempt to make a It's a Small World After All movie?
No.
Well, it's literally true. Look it up on Steven Soderbergh's IMDb.
Sure, there you go, everybody.
You're learning all kind of stuff about movies.
Look,
on this podcast.
I thought... I had no idea. I literally, the first time I went to Disney World, thought that the ride was based off the movie. Then I learned that... Turns out that ride's been there for 50 years.
Which ride is based on the movie?
I thought Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah,
Caribbean.
I thought it was based on the movie. I didn't realize it was just a boat going through some dark tunnels and it had been there for 50 years with the same creepy animatronics or whatever. Everything in Disney World is creepy. Right?
Yeah.
Kinda.
I don't know
Kids
if
die there, dude.
if you've ever gone down deep into the like rabbit hole of scary copy pasta. There's a lot of like stories about people getting lost in the tunnels at Disney being all scared. Like Disney just somehow, the idea of inverting these children's characters to be creepy is just so strong that everyone just has these deep-seated fears about Disney. And if you didn't, you do now. You're welcome.
Well, there are literal catacombs under Disney.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
they've
like-
got...
They have like a network.
What
They have a
tunnels?
city
There
under
are
there.
tunnels.
Yeah, there are tunnels. But that's, so that's how your trash disappears. Right? You put it in a trash can, it just disappears beneath. And some minimum wage worker is, doing all the trash work in the catacombs.
I want that AMA.
I don't know
They're
that
not
I would...
allowed to,
Yeah,
I bet.
No, but
Like on the... Speaking anonymously...
people do things they're not allowed to do.
That's true.
That's why we have a criminal justice system. Dong dong.
That is exactly what I was thinking. In the criminal justice system, the kids who die at Disney World never get investigated. No one fucks with Disney World.
These are their crimes. Law and Order, Magic Kingdom.
That's the name
We don't
of the...
know what happened, Goofy.
I was gonna
Maybe
say,
she
I want,
died
like-
when you
That's the
put her
name of the
head in the
episode.
swimming pool. Maybe she
I want, like,
died
the
when you
Mickey-
stuffed that
yeah.
ball of money in her mouth. We'll never know. Ha ha.
I want
Well, we
the
do
Mickey
know
Mouse
nobody dies at
rendition of
Disney.
Mickey Mouse just playing Ice-T's role where he doesn't know that like such heinous things happen in the playground. You mean like kids get eaten by alligators?
You're telling me...
Yeah, Mickey.
You're telling
We're in
me-
a swamp in Florida.
You're telling me they got a ride where they go into the shadows willingly? That's how you get dead kids at Disney.
Gosh, Mickey, I didn't realize it was so bad out there.
You telling me that kids pay $15 for a small ice cream cone?
Gosh,
Yeah,
no, Mickey, their
that's-
parents do.
Can you just imagine Ice Cube like deciphering, like treading into and finding the underground world at Disney, both in the literal and figurative sense? And he starts finding out that like, $15 ice cream cones are just a front for whatever illicit whatever you got going on at Disney World.
Ice Cube? Yeah, I can't imagine Ice Cube doing that because he made the movie Are We There Yet?
Ice-T, did I get it wrong?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
I like both of them, and I love SVU.
They're both
man.
black and you can't tell them apart. We get it.
That's it.
They
it.
look the same.
It has
to you.
nothing to do with the similar name.
Corbin sees right through them. They're ice, not black.
I loved SVU, man. And I never realized, I literally never watched that show and comprehended that he just says all this stupid stuff until someone pointed it out. And the next time I watched it, I was like, yeah, the writing for him really sucks. Like,
He's exposition. He's the
yeah,
He's the audience asking the questions.
yeah.
Because other shows that don't handle that well, like what is it, Criminal Minds, where someone's like, "This guy's an unsub," and then some like local cop's like, "What's an unsub?" And they're like, "This asshole doesn't know what an unsub means. It means unidentified subject, you idiot. And he's like, sorry, I'm just a local cop. And they're like, get out of our way. Give us your files. I'm taking over your office. And then they catch the guy.
That's pretty much exactly how it works.
13 seasons that got away with that shit.
All right, sudden substitution time. So, as everyone knows, Gaea's Cradle is one of the most powerful cards ever printed. It makes more mana than just about anything. You can do incredibly broken things with it in Commander, and yet it costs roughly $1 billion. So, this week on Sudden Substitution, if you've never listened before, what we do is we take that expensive card, Gaea's Cradle, and give you some budget alternatives. So, cards that can make you a bunch of mana can at least try to approximate what a Cradle can do if you don't have the $300 to drop on one. So I'll go ahead and jump in first here. And I actually wasn't aware of this card. We were talking about it before the cast, but this card seems great for this. Sentinel Hierophants. It's a rare from Urza's Saga, which is Urza's Gears for those following along at home. And it's $2. It's a 4-mana 3/2 green creature. But it gives each creature you control, tap, add 1 green to your mana pool. So, you know, it's not one land or one permanent tapping for all that mana, but it is netting you the same amount of mana in the end. Now, obviously, ideally, a deck that wants to run something like this, you'd run it in both, or you run this in an elf ball deck if you have a bunch of elves that don't naturally make mana, things like that. But it's a $2 card that if you're trying to go big with mana in green, can get the job done.
And if you're writing an article and you're like, this card's on the reserved list, and you're like, no, you know what? I'm going to check. So you open up the reserved list, you Control F, and you type in Sentinel, and it comes up, you're like, yeah, Sentinel, it's on the reserved list. And then you write your article. Someone's like, Sentinel Centaurs is on the reserved list, you idiot. And I'm like, the 6/3 Centaur with Echo is on the reserve list and Hierophants isn't? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah,
and then you're like, all right, I got.
You got blown out, buddy. Jason,
I got Control F'd.
What is your pick for this sudden substitution, though, for Gaea's Cradle?
This is a card that I've been really big on for a long time. It's got a lot of utility, and a lot of creatures lately, like Sedona and Xyrus, are making all mad tokens for us. I like Cryptolith Rite, which is a poor man's Earthcraft. But unlike in the case of Earthcraft, where like if you have no lands, you can still tap your creatures for mana, this just lets you tap your creatures for mana. It does not work as well with Squirrel Nest as Earthcraft does, but it doesn't cost $70 like Earthcraft does. So
yeah.
Not only is this a cheap substitution for something like Earthcraft that people insist they need, this is a cheap substitution for something like Gaea's Cradle. You're getting mana equal to the number of creatures you've got, provided you're willing to tap them. But in a Gaea's Cradle deck, like, you're getting mana equal to the number of creatures you have because you have lots of creatures and they're probably tokens. Like,
yeah,
you're not like, I have 45 copies of 10/10 creature. It's
you'll
like,
be able to
tokens.
tap enough creatures to play your Crater Hoof and probably still have lethal,
And yeah, it's easy to untap Gaea's Cradle, and just tap it again, but it's easy to untap all your creatures too.
Also true. All right, DJ, what do you got?
Mine is probably the closest thing we've ever gotten to a Cradle reprint. It is printed in Ixalan and Growing Rights of Itlamok. This card actually used to be even cheaper than it is.
I love
it used
this
to be
one.
only like a $3 or $4 card. It is up to around 13, and I still think it even goes up from here. So if you're looking to pick one up, if you're looking to pick up a substitution for Cradle, I think this is a card you pick up now because it is on something I call the pseudo reserve list, and that it is not impossible to reprint. It's just very, very difficult.
Yep.
Growing Rights is an enchantment, but it flips into a Gaea's Cradle after you meet the condition of having 4 more creatures in play, and then it does Gaea's Cradle things.
It's even better. It's actually better, right? Because unlike Cradle, it can tap for 1 green mana if you have no creatures.
That is true.
Yeah.
It is also just a generic forest if you just got Wrath of God.
Yeah.
So
I love this card. I mean, when it comes into play, you get to look at the top 4, get a creature. It's just a neat value card that occasionally does really broken things.
Not even occasionally, just usually does.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And
but I mean, this is
it
a
plays
card
a lot different, but like it's good in its own way too. So
Yeah.
a lot of people run both if they have a Cradle.
Yeah, this is a card I think goes to 20 eventually too, just because of how
Probably.
difficult it is to reprint and how high the demand is for this kind of effect.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
we talk about that whole cycle, all the cards in there.
Search for Ascanta.
Yeah. So
Arguel's Bloodfast.
Bloodfast,
Vance's
not
Blasting
great.
Cannons.
I'm trying to.
Because
Vance's Blasting
Doesn't Bloodfast
Cannons.
you have to go to 5 life or something like
What's
that
the
for it
white
to
one?
flip?
What's the white one?
Legion Landing.
Legion's Landing.
Oh, Legion's Landing. That's right. Yep.
It's not great anymore, but it used to be.
Hey,
Really
that card's
standard.
sweet. That card's cool. It's still played in Historic some, I believe. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to Sudden Substitution. We will have this clipped out, put on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery every Wednesday, I believe is what we're aiming at. And then you can also hear it as part of the episode on Friday. So if you want the short version, you can get it. If you want to listen to the whole thing, please do. It's every Friday. Speaking of all these cards we're talking about and where you can hear our podcast, we do want to shout out our sponsor, channelfireball.com. They are getting back up and running as safely as they can. They are based out of California, so it has been a slow process for them, but things are up and running again. So Channel Fireball is doing a May buy list bonus. You can get store credit if you send in your cards. They're also giving away every week 5 prizes: a Secret Lair Ultimate Edition with the Fetch Lands, Ikoria booster boxes, Masters 25, Iconic Masters, or an extra $100 in store credit. So if you want to submit a buy list order to anybody, highly recommend checking out Channel Fireball for that right now for a lot of free extra value tacked on in addition to what are pretty competitive prices. And that leads into what we want to talk about next here, which is a check-in on the Magic market. Where are things post, and I say post, but the fact of the matter is, here in the United States at least, large parts of the country are starting to come out of shutdown. And while that means different things for everybody, it does mean that we're starting to see a plan for these warehouses to get back to work. We're seeing Card Kingdom, Channel Fireball, everyone is starting to at least have a plan, whether that's limited orders or sending out Commander 2020 stuff, or they've got as much as they can do. And over the next month or two, assuming, of course, that the news is positive on the virus front, that we'll see kind of a return to normalcy for a lot of these stores. And I think that is really important given everything that's going on in the market right now. DJ, do you want to talk a little bit about just what we touched on it last week, but talk a little more about what we're seeing just now, another weekend without events to buy cards at?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something we'll expect to see even just going forward in the next month or two. Just the fact that there's still no huge events happening is really starting to dig into the supply and just the overall ability to buy cards on the internet for what used to be cheaper prices, just because there's such a big difference between the number of people selling their cards right now and the people who are buying cards with stimulus checks and just backed up income. And we've seen, I mean, if you go to the MTG stocks page, there's just so many staples and recurring commander cards that are going up and up and up. And yeah. I mean, this is just, I think, the new normal, at least going in the next month or two, because there's no real hardcore reason for anybody to fire sell anything right now.
Which is interesting you say that, because anecdotally, locally, I've had a lot of people selling cards. I run the Facebook page for the state for Magic in Oklahoma, and it is just filled with people selling their collections right now. And I don't know how much of that is need based, how much of that is just, I think a lot of it is kind of people get into the Magic lifestyle and the virus has forced people out of it. You're not building your life around going to F&M on Friday and traveling to a Magic Fest this weekend and going to play in a PTQ equivalent or on a Saturday, a 1K locally. And none of these things are happening anymore. People can't get together to even play Commander in a lot of cases. And I think at some point, maybe some people just realize that, hey, I've got a lot of money invested in Magic and I haven't missed it now that it's not there. It's very easy to just get into the habit of doing something.
They can also just switch over to a different platform.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is, and that's what I'm getting at is, paper Magic is increasingly not how, at least right now, is not how people are interacting with the game. And I think that a lot of these people realize that they can get their fix playing Arena, especially as Arena adds more and more cards and more game modes here. We have a historic format. They're dropping another historic anthology, which adds like 20 cards or something to the format. They're still working on backcoding. I mean, look, it's not going to be that long, and we're going to have Pioneer on there. We're going to have Commander on there. I mean, you better believe absolutely that long term they plan on doing all those things to Arena. And I think a lot of people don't want to be left behind, and they're seeing this as an opportunity to sell their stuff. Except, like DJ said, there's nowhere to sell it. So instead, they're taking to Facebook, putting a spreadsheet with 200 things on it, and asking people to pay them 80% of TCG for it. And I mean, I don't know if you're going to get a lot of bites. So it's interesting for me personally seeing that juxtaposed with these rising prices, because somebody's buying the cards.
Yeah, I mean, there's still buy lists out there. There are smaller operations that are trying to take advantage of the higher prices and the lack of competition for the moment. But I mean, I think that once the end of summer, start of fall comes, if we start to see events come back, I think if we'll be around the late August, early September era, I think we'll start to see things go back to what we consider normal then.
Yeah, I think things are going to be really crazy with like the lack of competition on the selling platforms, where people are able to like either like just set a new price for stuff or buy out stuff fairly easily. I think if you had 100 copies of a card at $10, right, and then like all but 10 people take their stuff off and it goes to 30, then you got 100 people at 30. So are those prices going to stick? You know, are people going to race to the bottom? It's going to be really interesting to see how the market adjusts to, you know, what happened when there was less competition and, you know, fewer people paying attention to it.
I want to call out one card in particular here I'm looking at that I think's just very indicative of what's going on here. Chromatic Lantern recently was reprinting Guilds of Ravnica. It's got, I think it was in Mystery Boosters, so it's got 4 printings plus a masterpiece. And yet it's still expensive because it's Chromatic Lantern, okay?
How much is it?
The card, well, here's the card was market price $6. Market price $7 at the beginning of March. By the end of March, the market price was $3.75. And now the market price is back up to $7.
Nice.
So sounds about right.
It's yeah, I mean, I was just looking through cards and this really encapsulates what's happened. We did see the bottom drop out of stuff. I was, frankly, you know, I wasn't freaking out or anything like that, but I was concerned. Is this with all this perfect storm of getting people out of paper Magic, are we going to see prices bounce back? And it is hard to tell because there's a lot of noise in the data right now. We don't know if it's stimulus checks. We don't know if it's lack of supply. We don't know if people are just ready to play Magic again. And we don't know what has caused that growth of Chromatic Lantern. But we do know that 2020 is supposed to be the year of Commander. And there are a lot of people hyped about this stuff. I know my group is itching to get back to play. We're hoping in a couple weeks, maybe it'll be safe enough in our area to do that. So people do want to play, but it is heartening to see prices rebound, even if we, you know, can't put 100% of the rebound on the demand side, and it may be a lack of supply issue. It is nice to see stuff rebound, and conversely, when events start again, that's when you're really going to be able to find some meaningful conclusions to draw as that supply does hit the market again, seeing what it does to prices. Do you guys, just in your local circles, obviously we're just talking anecdotally here, but have you noticed sort of a drop off in interest in paper Magic, or is it more like people who are just dying to get back out there and play?
It's both.
Yeah.
You know, different people are reacting this differently. Some people really want out. Some people really wish they could play every day. Some people are doing virtual FNMs on Arena where you could play with anybody, and they're choosing to play with the people at the LGS. Like. It's interesting.
I look at Arena as playing with nobody.
It's just a microcosm.
That's
what he said, microcosm.
Microism.
I heard him say microcosm.
Oh, I'd heard microcosm too. Continue.
Yeah, I was good. I've said that word before on this podcast, so
no one
the tape of him not botching microcosm.
Yeah, look, man, no one thinks that Marcel doesn't know that the card is called Tarmogoyf.
I think that Marcel does not know that the card is Tarmogoyf.
Marcel being an original host of this podcast 8 years ago when we started. Shout out to him and Ryan. But look, it's not that he thought it was called Targamoyf. It's that he called it Targamoyf. So
I think he thought it was Targamoyf.
He might have thought it was Targamoyf, honestly. But anyway,
I mean, Tarmogoyf is not more of a word than Targamoyf.
I agree.
It's all, but they're like, established lore is there's a thing called the Lurgoyf, and therefore everything's a goyf. We got goyfs now. He's like, I heard there was moifs. We got moifs now. Everyone's like, psh, this guy doesn't know the made up gibberish word. There's some dude in Sweden's like, the Lurgoyf is a real Swedish thing, you dick. I'm like, but as far as I know, they just made up the name Lurgoyf.
All right, into Breaking Bulk. That's an abrupt transition.
Every time you say "all right," you're like, "Yeah, that was a 25-minute segue."
Let me read.
Like
You're
you
right.
don't get to hear any of that unless you are someone who went to Patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery and gave us $20 a month, which is $4 or $5 an episode. For that money, you get a playmat, tokens, this handsome drinking glass I've been getting soused out of, and you have access to something called After Hours, which is all the stuff that we record on the podcast, but we don't think is fit for public consumption. We have to trust you to give you the After Hours, and there was a lot of it generated tonight. Let's just put it that way. So if that is something you're interested in, if you are a super fan, we think that $20 a month, which is $4 or $5 an episode, is a very reasonable amount to get that playmat, to get the drinking glasses, and all kind of other stuff. We really make it rain on the $20 people. And if you are at that level, thanks for being a complete idiot and giving us that much money. That's just...
Well, speaking of complete idiots,
gauche.
I've got a
how much money
whiteboard.
that is.
I've got a whiteboard behind me now in my little recording setup. And I just tried to point to it because I wrote patreon.com/brainstorm brewery on it because, hey, it's the pitch you never saw coming. But I tried to point at it, and because I'm mirrored, I pointed at the wrong wall.
At least that means that you're looking at your OBS, which means you're making an attempt to stay in the frame.
That's right, man. So. That's right. I am. All right. So with that said, let's jump into Breaking Bulk.
Breaking Bulk time. Breaking Bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
This is a segment where we talk about cards that we find in bulk regularly that people don't know is worth money. And the idea here is that people have more than they think they do in Magic. You can play with some of those cards you want. You can afford some of those expensive cards. You just don't know it. You've got to get into your collection, pull the bulk out. There's going to be cards worth value there. It adds up very quickly, especially when you start talking store credit on a buy list. And that's how you can get those cards you want, even if you don't think you have the trade value or the money to drop. So that's the idea here. So Breaking Bulk, we turned it into a little bit of game. I will go first, though, because we talked about this before the cast. I gave mine away, but it is a Dragon's Maze rare. And I know this comes as a shock because Dragon's Maze has essentially nothing in it worth money anymore. Voice of Resurgence, basically it. But Render Silent is a blue-white spell, similar to Absorb, but it says counter target spell. Its controller can't cast spells this turn. Card is was reprinted in a Guild Kick, Ravnica Allegiance, and it's above $1. It's $1 to $2. So it's just kind of an innocent looking counter spell. It's got a weird little clause on it. It, as far as I know, has not really been a thing that's came up at all in competitive play, even in standard at the time. But it is just a powerful effect. So it seems like people have started to move on it over the last few years and brought it up out of that bulk range.
Yep.
All right. Who wants to go first for you guys so we can get some guesses in?
I have a Mirrodin Uncommon that is an artifact, of course, and it has a couple other reprints, one of which was this year.
Scrabbling Claws.
No.
That's a good guess, though.
And it is also a card that I picked in 2018 already.
That was
Whisper Silk Cloak?
Nope. Whisper Silk Cloak was Darksteel.
Ooh, it's Darksteel. Look at me, I know the sets because I picked the bulk. Is it...
I felt pretty good with my last guess.
So make mana?
Nope. Mirrodin Uncommon that was in Plane Chase, Commander 2014, and Mystery Boosters.
Oh, Mystery Boosters, huh?
Is it an equipment?
Yes.
I swear to God, if it's Lightning Greaves.
Lightning Greaves has significantly more reprints than that.
It's a good question. It's hard with these sets where there's a million different things it could be. You said it's uncommon?
It is an uncommon artifact equipment from Mirrodin, C14, Plane Chase, Mystery Boosters.
Welding jar. No, that's not it.
Jason asked if it was an equipment, and I said yes, so not welding jar.
Jeez, that narrows it down a little to about 100 cards.
Yeah, there's just so many. I honestly don't know.
Picked it in Commander. I said I picked it in 2018.
Like we're gonna remember that.
You have a spreadsheet open.
I'm not cheating.
You have a spreadsheet too if you give us $10 a month at patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery.
All right, Mask of Memory.
Oh, okay.
Geez, I remember being annoyed when you revealed this last time.
Well, this is a good pick, right? This card's worth money.
It is a
That's a good
2-mana
pick.
artifact equipment. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2, discard 1. It is equip 1, so you can throw it on things relatively cheaply. It is a nice addition to Skull Clamp and other card draw effects that you just toss into pretty much any other commander deck that you want to draw cards with. It synergizes with discard effects like the new blue-red thing that I don't know the name of from Ikoria. Yeah, it's just a solid little $1 card that if you have some mystery booster stuff lying around, this is absolutely a card you should be picking out of that.
I have a very, very new card that this is something you might be able to get in bulk if you are drafting. If you ever get to draft this set in paper. This is an Ikoria card. Like, what's the price of it right now? Is it bulk? Who knows? Everything's bulk and nothing's bulk in Ikoria, right? So like,
You're saying it won't be bulk though.
I'm saying it will be bulk, but it shouldn't be, and you could get them. When I was at Gen Con, we were drafting like M10, and I was picking like just common cards out of like the trash. People were throwing cards in the trash.
That's what they do.
For whatever. Yeah, it was crazy. And I was just like, okay, like that's a Cultivate, that's a Mana Leak or whatever. Like there were people just throwing stuff away that ended up like being bucks later. So
yeah.
I think you might be able to get some Bastion of Remembrance out of Draft Chaff. I think when people draft a ton of this set, it's going to be just like a card people are like, nah, cards for kids or whatever. You're just going to pull these off the table before all that stuff gets bulked out. And I think you're going to pick every one of these that you see, and you're going to put them in a box and forget about them for 2 years. And then you're going to find that box and be like, oh, these are $1.50. I'm so smart. So Bastion of Remembrance is basically, people talk about like a card with an effect that was normally on enchantment being on a creature now as like, oh, it's that, but feat, that's better. Not in EDH. Creatures are way easier to kill. Enchantments are tougher. I think Bastion of Remembrance is going to stick around after somebody plays a Blasphemous Act in a way that something like your Zulaport Cutthroat or Blood Artist will not. So
yeah, this card is
Bastion
really
makes
good.
a token. It's really good.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of clues. I don't know if I'll be able to guess it.
Oh, we're doing the guessing game? I didn't think we were going to do that because Corbin didn't. So
well, DJ did. It's fine. This is
DJ picked a card that I already guessed before, and I still didn't get it. Like
Bastion of Remembrance. So this is actually a really powerful card. I've lost to this in Standard. I have to admit on Arena. It's a neat one. It's a very, very strong tax effect, and you're right. It is. It's
not a tax effect.
Well, I mean, it is. You kill the creature and you get tax life, right? It taxes your removal with life on top of it. So it's an effect that really adds up.
I would call this a Punisher effect, or like
it's not a Punisher. A Punisher is when your opponent has to make a choice that's not great for them. Everybody has just like dumb names for everything. Is it a rattlesnake? I don't know. Look. There's death and then there's taxes. So when a creature dies, it hits them. Therefore, it's the taxes that follows death.
It's the Bastion of Remembrance is the inheritance tax of Magic, of Ikoria at least.
It's like the alignment chart. Like, is this a grizzly bear?
Yeah, no kidding.
This is the chaotic neutral of grizzly bears.
There you go. All right, so this next topic here is something that we have teased a little bit recently. It's a bit of a throwback. I don't actually know the last time we did this, but it's everyone's favorite segment, From the Vault Emails.
This is the segment all about how Corbin didn't read your emails and you got blown out. So if you transcribed a set review, too fucking bad for you.
All right, onward.
From the vault. If we didn't read your email, don't blame Jason at all.
The shingles on the roof.
From the vault. If we didn't read your email, it's Corbin's fault.
It was almost certainly my fault. Won't lie. Okay, so we're going to go back.
Also, no. Just in case you were worried about these emails getting hacked in the 16 years since you sent them, don't worry. They are stored on a private, separate server that is Corbin's 1944 laptop.
It's air gapped just because it doesn't have a wireless card in it.
He's got an IBM 5100 in his.
It has a 3.5-inch floppy drive that you could use to get the emails off of it.
Floppy drives are the shit, man. All right, so here's the thing. I'm going back. This is all the way, I think. This is 2013. It's the earliest one I have.
Wow. Okay.
2013.
Yeah.
Were we podcasting?
Are you sure this isn't like a physical, like, snail mail letter that was sealed with a wax stamp?
This is literally 1 month. Like, we're recording on May 11th. This was sent on June 11th, 2013. Hey, Brew Crew. This is the worst part of this email. This email sent to us in 2013 says, "Hey, Brew Crew, longtime listener. If you didn't feel old before, somebody was listening to us for a long time 7 years ago. Anyways, longtime listener, first time emailer. This is from Sam. I focus mainly on Eternal play, and like many Eternal players, at one point in my life, I thought pimping out decks was the smartest thing I could possibly do. However, as a wise man once said, pimping ain't easy. I finally decided to give up my pimp game and trade back down to non-foils, and here's my conundrum. On the upside, I got in early, so its value is way above what I paid for it. On the negative side, it's hard to move. Due to low demand, buy lists on these is weaker than usual, so I don't want to go that route. I have no eBay experience, so I'm worried about a lack of feedback burning me. What's the best way for me to get rid of these cards? Thanks for the help and keep up the awesome podcast. Sam from Houston, Texas. So
this guy did not get rid of these the best way. There's no way.
You mean because we ignored his email for 7 years?
Yeah.
Possibly.
He's bitter. He's carving your name into his arm right now. I was like, oh, ignore me. Well, ignore this.
So what do we think here? Now, this is, I think, really interesting at this time because unlike when this email was sent, at the time this email was sent, getting foils and all of that probably made a pretty good amount of sense. Now, there's 35 different premium versions of whatever card you want to play with. So what do we think now? I mean, is it worth it, quote unquote, to pimp out as the old parlance was? I don't really think that's used much anymore, but to foil out your decks or to get all those special
for people
versions.
That don't know, pimp out is where people have sex with your deck and then they give you the money.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
that's what pimp out means.
Common misconception. People think it means foil, but
yeah, it doesn't. It means your deck is your bottom bitch out there bringing daddy the money.
So what do you think though? If you're advising somebody on how to sort of retain the most value out of their deck, whatever non-standard format that is, do you recommend foiling stuff out? Is it worth it to foil out Commander? Is it what are your guys' thoughts here? Should somebody be looking to up their deck to that level?
It is never worth it to foil something out if you are looking to increase or retain the same amount of money in it down the road.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain why that is?
Well, the email explains some partial understanding
right.
in terms of the demand that'll be expected to have later down the road, because it's significantly harder to find somebody who's willing to pay a premium for a foil version of an older card. Like you'll always have a harder time finding somebody who wants to pay the extra $100 or so for a foil crop rotation compared to a $2 regular one. Even if it's just like a card where the multiplier is not that high, it's just still just that much harder to find somebody who's willing to pay the premium.
Yeah.
And buy lists, as a result of that, aren't willing to take on that extra risk because, like, I mean, I'm a buyer for 95 MTG, one of the larger Magic vendors on the circuit, and I would always rather buy X number of copies of the non-foil, where X equals the however much money I'd be spending by buying the foil version. Like, I'd rather buy 15 Council's Judgments non-foil rather than one foil, or just whatever the ratio is, just because I know I will sell out of that many non-foils before I sell one foil.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as I have foiled almost all of my decks, including, my expensive modern decks, commander decks, etc. But the way I did it is I've never gone out and bought foils for them. I get foils. If somebody wants to buy a card out of my deck, I sell them a card out of my deck and I replace it with a foil that I had sitting in a binder. Or when I get a foil, I take the foil that I've gotten and I put it in my own deck so that I can then sell the other one, because I know I'm more likely to sell the non-foil than the foil, and I may as well just play with it because that's the best place for it. So it's interesting. I mean, you are going to have our time. Now, if you start talking about the truly high-end stuff, and I mean, maybe crop rotation is a good example, but let's say Dark Confidant, any of this sort of, at one point at the time this email was sent anyways, really legacy staples. Look, the reality is, putting the money into them, they are worth more and people will buy them. And if you foiled out your legacy deck in 2013, yeah, you're killing it today.
I don't know, but that's true because so many cards have been
aren't played anymore. Yeah, I mean,
aren't played or got reprinted. Like Dark Confidant back then had Judge Promo and Ravnica. Now it has 15 Modern Masters printings and like
and nobody plays Modern. Like the demand on Modern is down across the board also.
Yeah, I mean, we only have prices going back a couple years for foils. I mean, it looks like a foil Ravnica Dark Confidant is about $100. But yes, I mean, even that is down from where it was a couple years ago. So you're right. I mean, you probably made money just because if you had Underground Seas in your deck. But no, I mean, you're right. The foils are not the blue chips that they used to be. So Sam, I hope you did the right thing back then. I hope it worked out for you. Thank you for listening. So there you go, everybody.
If you are still listening, send us an email and we will send you something.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely
something. I don't know what we'll send you, but if you listened in 2013 and you're still listening now, send us an email. Even if you're not Sam, even if you're just somebody who has listened to this podcast concurrently for the past
8 years.
8 years, send us an email because we want to hear from you so we can send you something.
Yep, I agree. All right, so next email here. I gotta find it. I had a good one here.
What do you mean you have to find it? That's your job, is to find it before.
All right, this next one comes to us from the year 2014, January 27th, 2014, from Brain SW. This was a comment on an episode.
Who surely still listens to the cast.
Dear Brewers, during this podcast, and again during the newest podcast with two Jasons, you claim that at least some of the recent run-ups in card prices are not due to speculators looking to make money, but instead due to players looking to get a playset before the price increases. At least one of you seem dead certain about this. That seems like a fair possibility, but what evidence have you collected leading you to this conclusion? It seems equally likely that people who are professional or amateur speculators are responsible for the rise in prices on cards like Fist of Suns or Summoner's Eggs. Finally, one of you used the term sheep to refer to people who are getting in on a price surge after it is profitable to do so. Surely you can see how this term is incendiary, particularly when applied to a group of people who suspect that professional speculators have had a hand in making cards more expensive in the first place. Don't you think that the culture of those who play Magic for profit has had a role in making the game more expensive? And don't you think it has had a role in encouraging price surges on cards, either directly or by teaching people that it can happen and they need to act
Corbin,
quickly?
You're weaponizing this email and it's hurting me.
This is a good email. As you probably know from Reddit, many people suspect speculators do nothing but profit from the transaction costs they create. I'm not saying that's completely true, but it would be refreshing to hear some humility recognizing the nugget of truth to this prejudice instead of just getting all defensive about it and blaming the players. Woo!
I'm mad. It's your fault.
I had only read the first couple paragraphs that I read.
There's more?
No. Like, I'd only read it before. I had no idea it was going to get that good. It's the other line here is that they did ask if it's possible to get data from TCG Player to confirm buying patterns on cards like this.
Yes, it's called having a store.
What evidence have you collected?
This person is probably the most loyal listener. This comment came on episode 84, The Greatest Fool of All. All right, so they used a pseudonym to comment. However, I can tell you that this person's first name was Colin. So Colin, if you're out there, we know we're getting to your email, and it seems you were unhappy with us. But you know what? You were wrong, and we were right. I don't know what to... look, we should talk about this.
Speculators were reading Travis Wu articles and being like, you know what? I need Fist of the Suns based on a Travis Wu article because I'm a speculator.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is, and Jason's exactly right. That's what would happen. The reality is that stuff happens. It always happens. But it's a dead horse. Like, we all have run stores. And now, to answer the question that was asked here about, is it possible to get data from TCG Player? It is. It's market price. I guess we don't know that one person didn't buy all of them, but market price being separate from median gives you a lot of data about the way prices move, because they don't move in lockstep. They sometimes move independently of each other, and it gives you an actual metric of what the cards are selling for. So, I mean, to answer your question,
sometimes
Colin,
the market price is like $14 for a card like Concordant Crossroads, and then you're like, oh, someone's selling a bunch of copies for $11 on TCG Player, and then you buy them, and then they never send the cards because they never had the cards, and they were never gonna send the cards, and then you get a refund, and then that card is $40 now, and I didn't get my $11 copies. That's an example of how TCG market price doesn't necessarily move in lockstep with the fact that I bought all the $11 copies and the price never changed, and then I never got a single copy of the card, and now I got to pay 4 times what I was trying to buy them for.
Yeah, you certainly got blown out, buddy. But anyways,
I got a refund though, guys, which is what I wanted, right? I wanted my original money back.
I'm happy for you, Jason. So, to answer the question here, Colin, and the reality is we kind of gave you a hard time because we were getting the same message in 2013 that we're getting 2014 that we're getting now. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
It is, we've all seen our own data. We've seen the data. We've seen it move from stuff like the Saffron Olive effect. Now, the
Game Nights effect.
Yeah, the Game Nights of the things that drive prices are not the speculators. Yes, a speculator can go buy out a reserve list card. I can't. We understand that, but the vast majority of these price rises, they just don't happen like that. We have our own data. We have all the basically industry knowledge at this point, right? Like, look at the list of companies, stores in this that I've worked for. We're sponsored by Channel Fireball. DJ works at 95. He gets to buy cards every weekend. We know what we're talking about. So can we give you the data that says, the last 100 copies of this card were bought by this many different people? Well, we can't give you that data when a card spikes because we're not TCG Player, but we can tell you what our sales look like. And DJ has a giant view on this working at GPs.
24 copies go out to 6 different people. That's what we see.
And sometimes people buy 8. They buy 2 play sets. Is that are they speculating? Because that's what Jason always suggests, is you buy one more than the play set you need. Is that dirty speculating now? People just think that it's a group of 5 people who all go buy 200 copies of a card and disappear from the internet overnight. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying that it doesn't happen 90% of the time.
That happens to Pyramid and Catacomb Dragons. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It does. Maybe it does happen, but I think players are ignoring the fact that they are upset that they wanted to buy the card for the pre-spike price, but someone else bought it first. It could just as easily have been a speculator as another player, but it doesn't change the fact that if it had still been there, they would have bought it. So everyone else is engaged in the same behavior they are, but faster. Mm-hmm. And it's dirty speculators. When in reality, you would have been the reason it sold out if you'd been quicker.
Right, exactly. That's
no Snowflake thinks they're responsible for the avalanche.
All right, everybody, it's time for our final segment this week, Pick of the Week. I know that some of you out there have been listening the whole episode just to get to this. Now, why you did that, if you didn't want to hear the rest of the episode, when you could have just gone to youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery and skipped right to the time code we generously provide, so you didn't have to listen to everything else. But regardless, I know some of you get upset if there's no Pick of the Week. So it's time for Pick of the Week.
Pick of the Week, Pick of the Week, Pick of the Week. Time for the Pick of the Week.
All right, I'll jump in here. I'm going to choose a mythic from Dominaria, Jorah, Weatherlight Captain. We've seen this card climb from about 3 to 350 over the past couple months, despite the pandemic and everything going on. So Jorah is a 4-mana blue-red 3/3. Whenever you cast a historic spell, which, by the way, for those who weren't playing then, it's artifacts, legendaries, and sagas, you draw a card. This is a combo machine. It's a very powerful card. It's a mythic from a popular set, and it's available for about $3.50 right now. And I really like it at that price. I don't think it's going to go crazy. Probably $5, maybe $6. But like I said, it is an engine. You know, it's not inconceivable that this card could break out in Pioneer at some point and all of a sudden be $15. But as it stands now, at least until it gets a reprint at some point in the future, I like it at $3.50 here to climb up to 5 or 6.
Sure.
Don't object to that.
All right, Jason, DJ, which one of you wants to jump in?
DJ should go next because I did a thing.
Okay, Jason did a thing, so I'm going to do a thing, and my pick of the week is Sudden Substitution. Wait, isn't that our segment name?
That's a segment.
It is also a $1 card from Commander 2019 that has Split Second and allows you to exchange control of target non-creature spell and target creature. And then the spell's controller may choose new targets for it. Basically, it lets you grab somebody's thing and then do it to a thing that's doing it to a thing, and then you do the thing.
How very clear of you. Very helpful.
Well,
card's cool though. I do like it.
It's only $1, and it's from a Commander set that people just sort of glossed over, and I think that it is more powerful than people give it credit for.
Yeah, it is interesting. What's cool is that you don't actually have to use your own stuff. You can give them someone else's creature and give them the spell. So if you have teammates or whatever, and you don't have any creatures in play, so on. It's pretty neat. And it is certainly very cheap. Jason, what do you got this week?
I did a thing. I mean, I have a Ryan Bouchard pick.
All right, let's hear it.
Although this is a thing DJ does too.
I think this is a bit of a DJ thing, but
kind of a DJ.
They're kind of the same person when it comes to bulk Magic cards.
So did you know that the card Smothering Tithe is $15, and a Brawl deck with a Smothering Tithe in it is $20? What do you get for $5? Well, you get a $2 Alela Artful Provocateur. You get a $5 or $6 Arcane Signet, which is neither arcane nor a signet, but that's neither here nor there. And you get a $10 Watery Grave. So you're basically paying negative $5 for Watery Grave and getting a bunch of free cards in the mix. Even if you pay $25 for this Brawl deck, which is, I guess, like MSRP, they're still gettable. They're on eBay. They're, at Walgreens. They're places.
And I'm sure we can expect Arcane Signet to get reprinted forever.
Sure,
but some of those other cards.
So is Soul Ring and like Lightning Greaves, and that's never kept at below $5. Yeah. So, I mean, Water Grave is probably the most it's going to be for a while. So, I think you just get a free Smothering Tithe if you buy this deck.
I think you're right. It's a great deal if those are all the cards in it.
I have always been a fan of picking sealed product when the known contents inside rise above the actual value of the sealed product itself. And this is a really good example of that. And another additional layer to that is when the reprints in the decks are harder to distinguish without doing additional labor. So, what I mean by that is that the Smothering Tides in this Brawl deck has the same exact set symbol, same exact everything. It is functionally and visually identical to a Smothering Tides from Ravnica Allegiance, which means that when you're looking up to guess and figure out how many reprints a card has, this doesn't show up because it is just the Ravnica Allegiance one.
Right.
And so it's harder to say, oh, wait, that was in that deck. And so it goes under the radar more often, just kind of like how... one example of this from a little while ago was when Shainer's Edict was a $10 card for pauper reasons. And Shainer's Edict is a 2-of in some janky-ass precon from Torment.
But they didn't... those precons weren't a separate thing with a separate set symbol. It was just like, here's all the cards from all these different sets all jammed in the same box, and there's a foil land, and there's a little rulebook thing. Enjoy.
Yep, and so I was able to go on eBay and just buy old Torment precons for like $8 that had 2 $10 Cheater's Edicts and some foil lands and a River of Tears, and that was just a thing because nobody could tell that those were the precon cards.
Mm-hmm. You got me all nostalgic because the first thing I ever did in MTG Finance was go around to every Meijer and by the rat's nests with the Umazawa's GT in it.
I
For
assume
like $15 when GT was 25. It was dumb. I printed money.
I assume you meant Underground River, right, DJ?
Did I say C?
You
No, I
said River of Tears.
No, it's whatever the
Painland?
Torment one is, the black one.
Oh,
tainted, whatever.
Tainted. Oh yeah.
Tainted Isle.
Yeah, there you go. I just know there's always somebody screaming at the screen when we get a card wrong. So I try to.
No one cares. You know who cares? I was on Command Zone and I was telling a story about a time that I stole a really huge Taurian Mauler with the Sliver Overlord, and I couldn't think of Taurian Mauler. I was like, shit, what's a huge changeling? What's a huge changeling? What's a huge changeling? Chameleon Colossus. And then every comment on the video was, that has protection from black.
Gotcha.
You can't do that. It was like people were tweeting at me. People
that's
were
what they do,
Twitter
man.
DMs.
Yeah, that's what they do.
I was like, dude, if we screw something up on this podcast, no one cares.
Well, think about it. You're at home, you're watching, you're doing whatever. You make a mistake like that, and that person who has been listening to you, but not, and they that's good. You want people to be upset about that. It means you made a connection. You made them care, and you got it wrong.
I made them care.
All right, everybody. So if you like any of these cards we talked about, a reminder that you can pick up all of them from our generous sponsor, channelfireball.com. Also a great source for content like this podcast every Friday. Anything else, DJ, Jason, that you all would like to touch on before we get out of here this week? All right, that sounds like a big no. So do go ahead and tell people, Jason, we'll start with you. Where can people find you across the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Jason E. Alt, and that's the easiest thing to say because what I did was I made a pin post at the top of my profile.
There you go.
It says all the different places I write articles around the internet. So I don't have to like list them. I don't have to say I write for Gathering Magic and, Gathering Magic became Cool Stuff Inc. I write for that site.
That was a nice solid
MTG
throwback.
Price. Yeah, remember Gathering Magic? Remember Trick Jarrett's blog?
Yeah.
Gathering Magic back in when it was Live Journal.
Gathering Magic was my first gig. I got paid $5 to write a news article, like a news blurb.
I write for Cool Stuff and I write for MTG Price, and I'm on a podcast called Film Hooligans. And I have a patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery. And all of that information is contained in that pin post. So I don't have to say it every time. I just tell people about the post.
There you go. You can find me at Chosler, C. Hostler, on Twitter. I don't have a pin post like that. Maybe I should.
Maybe you should. If you're going to shake down an old man for his Twitter account, you should probably have a pin post.
I did do that.
That was a thing that happened.
Anyways, I make Mining Modern and Punting Pioneer every week on Cool Stuff. I do the Advantage Bar on Wizards of the Coast's YouTube channel. That's a big one. I'm really excited about that. Me, Corey Baumeister, Cedric Phillips, Riley Knight, Maria Bartoldi, putting together an ESPN-style show every week to keep you up to date with what's going on in Magic and have a little fun with it. So really excited to be a part of that. Go ahead and check that out. Wizards has been doing a lot of content on their YouTube channel since there's no events happening. So highly recommend some of that if you're looking for more Magic content. DJ, where can people find you?
You can find me at Magic Fest whenever those come back. You can find me at Rose of Thorns on Twitter. The second O is a 0. And if there is an argument on Twitter happening where people from the Magic community are being wrong about something, you can probably find me on that.
That is true.
Just trying to break out the crayons and glue and explain to people some basic concepts. Usually Twitter eggs with less than 2 followers.
Less than 2 followers. Yep. You've summed up the entire Twitter experience, DJ. I'm sure people are dying to go find us on there now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. As always, this is Brainstorm Brewery. We'll see you next week.